Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's session, Attributes of a Financially Viable Practice. My name is Sydney and I'm from the PHN Education team. I'm joined today by our experts from Kutcher & Neal, Megan Goodwin, Sarah Buckton, and Lisbeth Penna. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we live and work on. For myself from the Central Coast, that is Darkinjung land, and I'd also like to pay respect to all elders past, present, and emerging. Now, through our Sustainability and Viability Initiative, launched in February 2024, 60% of the general practices across the region have engaged with us to better understand their viability issues and work towards achieving their business goals. Our engagement has provided us with valuable insights into the challenges faced by local general practices, particularly regarding financial stability. This highlights the importance of implementing effective financial strategies. As a result, we have partnered with Kutcher & Neal. This webinar series, specifically designed for general practice businesses, offers practical insights and strategies to enhance financial health and improve operational efficiency. Now, some housekeeping for today's session. Your camera is automatically muted your camera's turned off and your microphone's muted. So if you have any questions throughout the session, please pop them through the chat box, which you will find located within your control panel. The session is also being recorded and will be available for you to view in our PHN Education Library in a few days' time. An evaluation will also come to you directly after this session. Your feedback is extremely important as it enables us to provide future education. Now it is my great pleasure to hand over to Megan Goodwin.
All right, thank you so much, Sydney, and thank you everyone for joining us today. So as Sydney mentioned, we're looking today at the attributes of a financially viable practice and what that looks like. So there's a few of us online and here to help you today. So I'm Megan. I'm one of the partners here in our Specialist Medical Services division, and I work very closely with Sarah and Lisbeth in our Xero section and our marketing team as well. And they're here to provide some insight and guidance into how they can also assist you. So moving on, just a little bit about Kutcher & Neal, and I know for the viewers online today we went through this previously, but for our new attendees, Kutcher & Neal, where we have been in the business for over 70 years, and we've got a Specialist Medical Services division where we purely look after our GPs, our medical practice, our medical specialists. So we're very focused on looking after all aspects of their financial well-being, essentially. So we are, whilst we're located in a few locations across the East Coast, we look after clients in many locations. So we have clients, I personally have clients as far north and then south in Tasmania as well, but we look after clients across all of Australia. So one thing I think is really important just to point out, just so you understand who we are as a firm and how we approach our day-to-day operation here with our own teams, but also with our clients. These are our core values. So we went through a bit of a project probably about 18 months ago now, and we wanted to look at who we are and who we are as a team and who we are in terms of how we interact with our clients and our community. So these are our core values, and anyone who works in Kutcher & Neal or part of the Kutcher & Neal team, they abide by and they adhere to these values, and it's true to their core as well. So a little bit about the services we provide here. So we are not just tax and accounting, but as you can see here, we offer many different facets. And I work really closely with a lot of these teams to look after my clients' financial well-being. So, for instance, we work super close with our superannuation team in Medico. We also work really closely with our finance team as well. So we are not just tax and accounting. We're not traditional accountants. We offer all services here at Kutcher & Neal. So if you're a client of Kutcher & Neal, you will see this slide every single meeting almost when you come and meet with us. So we meet with our clients numerous times a year. And this is what we call our 7 pillars for success. So maintaining, growing and looking after your financial well-being and your overall wealth is the paramount pillar for us in the middle there. And then you'll see all the offshoots of everything that we think comes together to look after that financial well-being for you and your overall wealth creation and preservation. So yes, that's the pillar of what we do here. In terms of there's a few accolades here that I'll put up on the screen, and one that's probably incredibly important to myself and Elizabeth and Sarah as well is being the Employee of Choice winner for the 2024 Australian Business Awards. So that's really important to us, and it really shows that our team here, they love what we do for not only internally, but also too for our clients as well. So they're happy to be part of the team. All right, so what I might do here is I'll get everyone to just complete the Slido, and I just want to understand who we've got on board today and what sort of practices we have, so we can really get an idea of the attendees and see where we need to target our focus for today. So if everyone can scan that and let us know who's participating and who's online, that would be great. All right, we might just leave it there for the moment. So, all right, some big practices online. So between 5 and 10 FTEs, so some really large general practices, which is great. And that just helps us target our audience and who we need to talk to today. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that. All right, so our agenda for today. So 3 key areas that we're going to cover. So I'm going to cover off on 4 ways to grow your practice. So look at the 4 attributes that we think are important in terms of practice growth and sustainability. Sarah is going to come online after that, and she's going to talk about cloud-based software integrations and the efficiencies there that practices can potentially gain. And then Elizabeth is going to finalize our session with how to develop a strong online presence for our GP practices. All right, so I think it's important to just point out and again revisit, as we did last time, what are the challenges that GPs are facing at the moment. So what are our practices' struggles, and where are the pinch points for you? So you'll see, for instance, if we look at the first one, we're talking about rents, salaries, and wages. And these are some of the biggest costs that any general practice will have to incur and maintain. And we understand that. And also too, when you're looking at investing your time or your energy, investing in people is really important when it comes to sustainability of your practice. So we recognize there's cost pressures there. We know that interest rates are still potentially they're in the decrease, but they're still really high. They're at all-time high for the moment, and it makes it harder to not only access funding, but there's also pressures on repayments and interest rates and things like that. We also recognise as well service fees. So there is pressure, I know, from doctors coming on board and negotiating more vigilantly the service fee percentage that they're paying, and that can be challenging in terms of medical practices covering costs and things like that. So we just recognise those few things. So these are the focus areas that we're considering when we're presenting today and working out how we can assist you. So if we look at the basics as well, so just when we always start with the basics, and we always want to revisit this just to know that this is where our focus area is, and this is how when we approach every client meeting, so every new client meeting or any existing client meeting, the foundations of your structure are really, really important. So unfortunately, there's not any one size fits all, but there are pros and cons of each option, and we need to consider that. And it's a really personal decision. So it's your personal circumstances. So it's just important just to keep this in mind when we're talking about different things as we go through the presentation. And again, service fee arrangement. So when we're talking today, this is the service entity arrangement that we're considering and that we have in our back of our mind when we're talking about effectively growing your practice. So this is the ideal scenario and what we usually work with our GP practices. All right, 4 focus areas. So 4 ways to grow your practice. So when we liaise with our clients and prospective clients as well, we have considered 4 areas to increase the growth and sustainability of practices. So that is, we can either increase the number of patients that come through the door, we can increase the number of patients that return. So it's not just about practices always having to find new patients to come through the door. It's how can we get those existing patients to come back and have other services, to get their children and their partners and things like that also to return. We can look at increasing the average spend that a patient has while they're there in the practice, and that's not about providing the wrong service to them or the wrong diagnosis, but it's about their overall healthcare. So it's how can we service the patient better and also to grow the profitability of the practice. And last thing is, and this is probably a bit more accountant focused than patient focused, but it's how can we increase the effectiveness of the processes that we have. So how can we look at the overheads that the practice is incurring, and how can we focus on those, minimize those, and ensure that we're not spending too much there. So it's not just about profit and making these huge profits and going into sometimes the doctor's back pockets. It's about sustainability to keep these practices in play. So for not only the current owners, but future doctors coming through the process. So this is the formula we consider when we're talking about our 4 ways to grow. And it really, there's 2 main components to it. So there's the income side of things. So increasing your patient numbers, increasing the return visits and the average value of their consult. That really impacts the top line. So that's how can we increase our income numbers, where the effectiveness of the processes is more about reduction in costs and inefficiency in costs and reducing those expenses. So overall, those 4 items and those 2 key components impact positively, if we can get it right, the profit and loss. All right, so if we want to look at increasing patient numbers, so we need to understand that sometimes it's hard to fill doctors' books and to understand where those gaps are and how we can actually truly increase those patient numbers. So it might be looking at increasing the number of actual doctors available at the practice, and that could be a mix of registrars, being a training practice and having more registrars there, being a practice that's seen to be desirable to work at, so increasing the number of doctors that want to come through the door, and also additional services. So as we're all incredibly busy people, we sometimes, when we make an appointment, we want to do that and tick as many boxes as we can. So are there allied health? Is there speech pathology? Are there other complementary services that your medical practice can provide to increase those patient numbers? So if a patient comes to you, they know they can tick off a few of these items. One thing I've put there is an online booking system. So that can be incredibly efficient and incredibly enticing for, if I use myself as an example, a working mum, and I know that I only get a chance to make an appointment with my GP after the kids have gone to bed at night and when I get a chance for a little bit of downtime. So I know from my own personal experience, an online booking system can help increase and entice patients to come through the door rather than trying to find 5 minutes through the day to make a phone call. And it's also too about looking at the doctor's efficiency when they're actually there in the practice. So looking at average consult times and just understanding whether we're billing appropriately too for those consult times. So and also too a bit of education between the doctors. So I know sometimes with my clients that they have education sessions amongst themselves and just information share, and it's just about efficiency in the practice when they actually are seeing patients and whether there's billing processes and things like that, and they're billing accordingly. Look, sometimes too, and Sarah will cover off on this a little bit more, but there's software available to assist you to understand what these numbers might be and how to increase these patient numbers. So, for instance, I'm a bit of a fan of Cubico, and there's things like the full-time equivalent report that you can run, and that can assist with rostering and future doctor capacity and really understanding where these new patients can be allocated. So it's not just a look and hope for the best. There are reports and there are softwares available to help you work out what these numbers are. So if we go here, so the next, increase the number of times that your patients return. So like I said, you don't always have to fill appointments with new patients. There can be a focus on care plans and to ensure the returning patients are being, whether we are accessing these care plans and seeing them for all these elements. So it's not just about the dollars, it's also about ensuring the high quality healthcare and prevention really as well. So not just treating, it's prevention for the future. Again, software can assist here to identify gaps in patient recalls or care plan requirements. So leverage your time effectively off those software providers to just see where those holes are. So it's recalls, it's patient analytics, it's understanding where there are care groups that aren't identified or patients in those care groups that we can get to come in and put those care plans in place. All right, so the other way to grow, so we've looked at patients, we've looked at returning patients. Now, how can we increase the average cost of a fee when a patient actually does come through the door? Have you looked at billing practices in the practice itself? So whether you're a private biller or a mixed billing practice, whether that truly does work for the longevity of your actual practice itself. And also too, that's where the education can come in between the doctors and understanding whether there's the efficient billing practices are in place. One thing that I think traditionally has probably been a bit of a, not a sore spot, but it's really, there's a bit of contention around it, is whether you charge for a no-show fee. And I know that sometimes can be really tricky for medical practices to understand, well, we're not there to actually just raise income, we're there to see the patient. But sometimes a no-show fee can be that little bit of extra, can discourage someone from booking an appointment 3 months ago and then forgetting about it and not worrying about cancelling it and go, oh, well, that'll be okay. But it also too, you need to cover yourselves when you've rostered your reception staff, you've rostered your nurses, everyone's rostered accordingly for your patient bookings. And if you're doing this and incurring these overheads and these patients aren't showing up, it can have a really detrimental effect on the medical practice itself. So yeah, look, it's not for everyone, but just considering whether a no-show fee is appropriate is worth probably just putting your mind to. And also to increasing the average number of the fee, it's really about whether doctors can leverage their time appropriately off nursing staff as well. So sometimes it's not always the doctor that needs to see the patient, and it's whether they can work together with their nursing team to increase the overall billings of the practice and provide that great patient care. All right, the last thing, which is probably a little bit more, like I said, accountant focus, is increasing effectiveness of practice processes. So what can we look at and what can we measure to understand whether we are just paying expenses for the sake of it, whether it's the most effective use? Overheads are a big one. So that's looking at things that we talked about last time in our first session. So budgets, that's where they come into play, and revisiting that monthly profit and loss versus budget report, and just looking at using that Xero budget manager tool, which actually sits in your Xero system. So if you use Xero software, that can be a really handy tool just to measure those overheads, to understand whether you actually are on track or whether there's areas that you need to focus on. Automations, they can play a key part as well, and Sarah will talk about some software automations and integrations and things like that may save you some time. So if there's something out there that a software program can do, and you can, as a practice manager or the bookkeeper in the practice, if you can spend your time focusing on other areas and leave the automation to do its thing, that is incredibly efficient way to grow your practice. And about it's also to looking at tasks that a doctor may traditionally think that they need to do, but doesn't really involve the patient care side of things. So anything that doesn't need doctoring for, that we can leverage our time better with our practice managing staff, with our reception staff or our nurses, we should look to see whether we can do that. All right, so now that we've discussed the 4 ways to grow and we've just stepped those out, I thought we would do a SWOT analysis. So a SWOT analysis is a great tool, and it can really assist you in critically analysing your practice to work out where, as it says, strengths, weaknesses, and the opportunities and the threats are. So it's all about growth. It's not growth in terms of just profits and it's all great and we're not providing patient care. Sometimes, and especially in the rural areas, it's about sustainability of the practice and just making sure that we can keep the practice running as efficiently as possible for not only the patients, but for the new round of doctors and the new round of nurses coming through. So if we can keep these practices there for the community, it not only serves the patient, but also those doctors coming through in training. So by critically analysing and understanding your practice, you can prepare an action plan and really understand how you can improve the overall practice itself. Look, also we've found when we've done completed SWOT analysis with our clients and our practices previously, it can be a real team bonding activity in terms of really getting the whole leadership team to understand the areas and all these different facets. And it also gives you a bit of a buy-in factor. So if they're engaged in the process and they really want to help drive this practice to succeed, they should really have the ability to engage and really want to see it succeed. So this is where it can come into play as well. And it can help develop strategies to identify the issues as well that we find in the SWOT analysis. So what we might do here is we'll go through all the different components here, and really what I want to do is just a bit of thought-provoking activity so you can take some of these ideas away and maybe do your own SWOT analysis too, and understand what the practice is outstanding at, because it will be outstanding. There will be components that are excellent, but there also too will be weaknesses and opportunities there that you may not be tapping into. So these are just thought-provoking ideas, and really it's to give you a bit of a starting point so you can take it away and do it yourself in your practice. All right, so for any practice, we've got to look at the strengths first of all. So in your particular practice itself, it may be reputation. So it may be reputation of the outstanding patient care, of your doctors and what they do for their patients and how they make their patients feel. And it's also to, as well, if we look at strengths, staff retention. So as I mentioned early on, staff are one of your biggest expenses, and to look after your team and to have the longevity there and to not take that time to keep retraining new team members on and on and on, that can be a real strength. So some practices that I deal with, they have long-standing practice managers that have been there for so long and know the ins and outs, and that's really a strength of the culture that's been created at that practice. Do you use technology? Do you tap into different software platforms that you can to actually make time for your team to do things that software or automation can't do? So that can be a real strength there. Looking at effective use of nurse time and whether you're leveraging the doctor and nurse time effectively, that can certainly be a strength as well. And of course, a great practice manager. So to have a great practice manager there to lead and just to be that anchor for the team can really assist in running a strong practice. All right, so we'll move on to the weaknesses, and sometimes these I fully appreciate that it can be challenging to really identify the weaknesses of the practice and something that you put your blood, sweat, and tears into, and you want to succeed. But in terms of growth and identifying the pain points, it is important to look at potential weaknesses. So, and these can be things, and these are not just necessarily in general practice, but can be across the board in business. So, overworked doctors or staff. So if people are coming in and they're doing the grind every day, that there's got to be a point where there's some burnout. So do we have the ability for our doctors and our team to take the breaks and not put in these huge hours all the time? So that could be a potential challenge or a weakness for a practice. Recruitment of doctors. I know in some areas, and certainly in rural areas, recruiting and retaining GPs is incredibly difficult. So is the ability to attract the talent and retain the talent a weakness and a struggle for your practice? Is that something that you've got to focus on there? And whether it's with growth and with profitability, it's buying the new and latest equipment. So everyone wants to come and work in the shiniest room with the best technology. So looking and focusing on the profitability, increasing that, can help mitigate these weaknesses that might not be, there may not be the best equipment there for doctors to use for patients. An aging patient base, so that itself comes with its own challenges. So if you're in an area where the patient base is elderly, well, it's the challenge then of finding those new patients, those new younger cohorts to come through the door. And I thought it was really important here to put up, and especially with Elizabeth talking about shortly, if there's no marketing plan or no online presence as well. So we all know we are moving more to an online platform. So if there's no marketing plan out there, well, maybe people just don't know you exist. So it's really looking at that and seeing how we can tap into those sorts of different platforms. All right, the next part of our SWOT analysis we would look at is opportunities. So there's always opportunities to grow, refine, and really tweak the process that we do. So are we involved in good training practices? So are we training our team? Are we actually a training practice? Is there a way we can become a training certified practice and get those registrars and get those new doctors on board? Have we not revisited our processes for a while, and they may be outdated and they may be taking extra time? So can we understand what those processes are and see if there's opportunities to change and refine and revamp? Of course, a doctor's being able to leverage their time effectively off their nursing team and their practice manager team as well, that can be an opportunity. So if we're not tapping into those opportunities, we may be working incredibly hard, but just there may be untapped areas there. All right, and lastly, before we hand over to Sarah, threats to the practice. So this is the last component in our SWOT analysis, and the threats really and the weaknesses, sometimes they might intertwine and overlap, but probably the biggest threats I would say from a consumer point of view or for a patient point of view is potentially reputation. So sometimes, again, in this online world, it doesn't take a lot to develop sometimes a bit of a, not a bad reputation, but really it doesn't take much for someone to put a review out there and then that could stick. Are there those sorts of people? Are there people out there that may do that? So that's important just to keep in mind. Is there a poor culture in the practice? And this can be something for any business as well. So even in an accounting profession or any business, it's about fostering that culture from the top and getting that to dribble down essentially. So if you can create that environment where people want to be, where patients want to come in, where doctors want to turn up to every day, that can really help mitigate these threats. So look, like I said, going through these ideas now for a SWOT analysis, it's not to just point out everything, but it's just to give you a few ideas and a few things that could be out there that if you want to take the time to do this for your practice, that they could be a good starting point, just to thought-provoking essentially, and see where areas that you could potentially target. So it's not to target all of these components, but just maybe pick a few that you think that you could work on to increase the overall efficiency of your practice. All right, with that, I will hand over to Sarah and she will go through efficiencies in cloud-based software integration.
Thanks, Meg. Nice to see everyone here today. It's been a while since I've done a presentation, so it's actually nice to be back in the groove of doing presentations to people and doing some Xero work with everyone. So we'll get started on looking at some efficiencies that I feel that I use with practices all the time. So I speak to a lot of our practices in our Medico team who are on Xero, and these are sort of things that come up quite often that I find that people could be just, implementing one or two different things that they might not know about, which could help with their day-to-day processing efficiencies, as Meg said, freeing up your time to be spent doing other things that you should be doing in practice, things that you can employ very quickly and get those efficiencies and automation features happening. So these are what we're going to cover today. We're going to look at bank reconciling because that's the majority of what you'll be doing in the Xero file most of the time is bank reconciling. So how can we speed that up? How can we make that better? We can use some features like bank rules and cash coding to make that nice and simple for you. So we'll go through that. We'll look at payroll. So payroll is probably one of the other next thing that you probably spend most of the time doing. So that will be what we'll look at after that. So how can we do some reducing the paper that you might be using? So paper timesheets, getting your staff involved in doing their timesheets, leave requests, things like that to make it much easier for yourself. Then we'll look at entering and paying bills, another area that I see people spending a lot of time on that they really could be spent doing otherwise. And we will look at HubDoc in a conjunction with entering and paying bills, just as a software addition that we can have to make that process so much quicker. We'll get to the next slide for me, please. Okay, so for bank rules, so we're going to look at bank reconciling first. So there's a few things that we can do in the bank reconciling area. The two that I'm going to focus on are bank rules and cash coding. So with your bank rules, there's a few things that will do for you. So creating the bank rules for each bank account, it's a fantastic way to automate many of your transactions that occur on a regular basis. So some examples of these may be your patient income, wages, bank fees, all those things that happen that come into the bank account all regularly all the time. You really should be having a bank rule on those. So it reduces the need for all the clicking and entering manually. You should be having a bank rule to cover all those things to happen for you automatically. So setting up a bank rule will allow you to select that contact, the account code where that needs to go to, the GST treatment and description. So that rule will automatically apply those selections for you every time. So that's going to increase the accuracy of your data that is going to be processed the same way every time. So again, hand in hand with that becomes efficiencies. So your bank rules will save you time, create you better efficiencies. So each reconciled transaction will be the same. So less chance of you needing to fix any of those reconciling errors. So sorry, do you want to pop up one slide for me?
Yep.
Thank you. Yep. So with cash coding, that's your next step in your automation. So once you have your bank rules set up, cash coding is your next step. So cash coding allows you to reconcile your transactions in bulk. So at the moment, you're probably reconciling your lines one by one. So pressing OK, 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 and OK, line by line. But with cash coding, if you flip to that screen, once you have your bank rules set up, you could get to a point that you could be reconciling your transactions in that one click. So I reckon 90 to 95% of your transactions you could cover in a bank rule and they can be coded in one click. So again, speeding up that efficiencies of not having to spend time, reconciling each line one at a time. So that would be, much more time gained and basically getting rid of all those regular transactions, and that just leaves you with the ones that might be one-offs or ones that you just might need to do a little bit more with or break those apart. So that would, help with that reconciling. Next slide, please. Okay, so entering of paying bills. So that's the next one that I find a lot of people spend time with Xero, and I guess not being aware of what functionality Xero actually have for you right there and then, like something that you don't need to add on or bring another software program in. Xero does have these capabilities built into the software. So at the moment you may be entering your bills one at a time, but I wonder if you've ever tried emailing your documents into Xero. So Xero does have a feature that you can email your PDF documents straight into your inbox, into the bills area. So when you email your PDF copy of a statement or a bill into Xero, it'll start a draft bill for you automatically. So that draft bill will bring in the contact name, it'll bring in the date, due date, invoice number, and it will also attach a source document for you straight away. So then all you really need to do is then assign the account code for that particular bill. Say if it's like a Telstra bill, you obviously want to put that to telephone expenses, all those sorts of things will happen for you. Xero is great in memorization, so it will start to learn how you do that. So you might even get to the point that when you email that bill in, all you need to do is review that bill and press approve. So what's great about that is if you were emailing your bills in and creating drafts, that's less keying of data that you need to do, and you have a source document attached to that bill. So where in the past you may have had to put lots more transaction information and descriptions on your bill, if you've got a source document attached to you, there's less necessity now to have a real detailed description of that bill when you've got that source document. And for us as your accountant, if we can see those source documents, that's even better for us because there's less that we have to ask you for and to pull out information for us. If we can see that source document, we can see how it's been treated, we can make sure that everything is all good. And if we have any questions, we can review that. So it is a really good time saver. So you probably get to the point that when you're opening up your email of a morning, you would just be pressing forward and forwarding those emails with the bill attached straight into Xero. So you're just going to basically forward them in and file that email away. Then when you jump into Xero, that bill has already been read and a draft bill has been created for you within a matter of seconds. So it is a really good time saver. So it's a really big one that I like people to have a go at. Doesn't hurt. If it creates a draft you're not happy with it, you can delete it. So, but I really encourage everybody to have a bit of a go at that. Repeating bills is another one that I find that people don't use a lot. Repeating bills are great to set up for those regular transactions. So something like rent is something that might happen weekly, or things like your workers' comp installments, if you pay them monthly, I'll be setting up a repeating bill for those. Things that you don't want to forget. So they're nice to have sitting there as a repeating bill to come in, and you can just have them sitting there and as a waiting payment, and they will just generate, and then you can pay those when they're due. The other one that I find people don't utilize a lot is paying their bills. So at the moment I see people, they tell me that they pay their bills one at a time. And that is a really long way around paying your bills and getting efficiencies from that. So you can pay your supplies in bulk with a batch file. So in Xero, you can select multiple bills from different suppliers and create a batch payment file, which is called an ABA file. You then upload that to your internet banking. So this batch payment will debit one amount from your bank account and pay the various suppliers for you. So it saves you time of entering separate payments into the bank for each supplier. It reduces the risk of paying the wrong amount or the wrong supplier. So you're going to increase your efficiencies here and not having to go back and check to make sure that you're paying the right people the right amounts. And I would also then recommend that you start to target a particular day in a week. So you might find a particular day might be a bit like a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday, whatever suits you, and you pay bills in that one day. You're not paying bills every day. You really should be targeting one particular day that works, jumping in, doing all your bills on that particular day, and having that batch file straight away just to download and import into your online banking. It just saves so much time and just reduces so many potential errors there. So I do see people don't use that very often or aren't even aware. So that is something I really encourage people to do, is set up your batch payments for paying your bills. Next slide, please. Next one is payroll. So there's a few areas here that you may already have employed. As I deal with more and more clients, I see more and more people coming on board with these things. So, but I just wanted to point out a few of them which you may not be doing. So within the payroll system in Xero, it has all these features ready for you. So timesheets. I find people are still using paper timesheets, and you as a practice manager are spending a lot of time adding up timesheets manually, getting their hours collated, chasing people for their timesheets. I've been there, I know what it's like. So that's what takes up most of your time. So what I say to you is, let's give that back to the employee. Let's put that on them to submit their timesheets to you. So let them fill out their timesheets, let them submit their leave requests, and then you will just be in an approval flow. So you can then review those timesheets, approve them, they're ready for your payroll. So you are no longer having to sit there and add them up, just saving a lot of time. So I'd really encourage you to have those timesheets and have your staff involved in doing those. So the employee, as part of that, gets access to an Xero Me portal. It used to be called My Payroll, but now it's called Xero Me. So they can have the ability to do these timesheets in an app on their phone if they prefer, or they can do it on a desktop version. Also in that payroll portal, they can get access to their own details, and they can also see their pay slips from historical pay slips through, so they can download those whenever they need them. So it's really important that you give them access to that portal. I believe it saves you a lot of time going back and chasing that information for them. Emailing pay slips, I still find people are not emailing their pay slips when they're doing their payrolls. So it's just one click when you're processing your payroll to email pay slips. You can get a blue tick in that area when you've emailed a payslip, so you know that have been sent. So I really strongly encourage people to use that feature. Batch payments, again, very similar to your payroll. I find people know about batch payments in payroll more than they do in bills, but it's the same principle. So you can download a batch for your payroll, upload that to your bank, and once it's approved and processed, one amount debited from your bank account pays all the individual staff. So again, reducing the risk of paying the wrong employee the wrong amount, reversing figures, all that is just something we see very, very often. If you have a batch payment and it has that file, it's going to match your payroll. So you don't get to the end of financial year, especially for us as accountants, we go back to clients and say, you have an issue with your wages, you haven't paid this person this amount correctly, or that amount they've been underpaid or overpaid. We find out, months later. So if you're using a batch payment, it's going to avoid all that, because we know whatever the batch is, it's going to match your payroll in Xero. So really important to utilize that batch payment method. And again, it's so much quicker than having to pay staff one at a time. The other feature is Auto Super. I find most people are engaging in Auto Super in Xero. That is just a way to batch pay your super. It's a great system. If you're not already using it, really encourage you to do so. Makes it so much quicker. You tick the lines that you want to pay, and you process that super through. And again, amount gets debited from your bank account, and super is paid. Not much else you need to do in that space. It's very automated. We are getting to the point, though, that we may end up seeing super being paid at the time of payroll being processed. That's being discussed currently. So I guess watch that space about what happens here. But again, something like Xero will be able to utilize, same day super payments. So it's really important that you sort of get involved in the super in Xero now, understand the process, because I feel like it's something that's going to be happening more and more. We'll all have to change the way we do things. All right, I'm going to jump into HubDoc now. So something I'm very passionate about for practices. If you are using bills in your practice, I really strongly encourage HubDoc. So HubDoc is a Xero product. So it's what we call a software add-on product. So this product bolts onto the back of Xero, and it deals with your receipts and bills very similar to what we discussed a minute ago about emailing your bills into Xero. HubDocs takes that one step further. So you can upload your documents to HubDoc, and those documents get read, and they also publish them into Xero for you automatically. So where Xero will stop as a draft, HubDoc will take it one step further. It will read it. It will pull out your GST. It will code it as per supplier rules that you'll set up. So it's a one sort of setup process, and then you can auto publish those into Xero, ready for you just to match on your bank statement. Especially for receipts, I find this very, very beneficial, especially if you have like a debit card or something at the practice level that people will go and buy milk and staff amenities and things like that. They can just take a receipt, upload that to HubDoc, your credit card feed comes in, and you're just matching those receipts off. So I find that is something that's really worthwhile. The other thing that it does have is a document storage in there. So it's a bit of a virtual filing cabinet. So I find it really great that when you jump into HubDoc, it actually will separate all your receipts and bills into folders by supplier. So I find this a really great time saver to jump in. If I want to find a particular bill from a supplier, I can jump into HubDoc, click on that folder for that supplier, and then I can just go back and review all the bills that I have. No more going through emails and searching for invoice numbers and things like that. It's all held for you in HubDoc. So I find this a really great method, like I said, to upload your documents with. You can get a mobile app as well for those receipts to help. So you can upload your documents from the app straight into HubDoc. You don't have to have a desktop version going if you don't want to. Again, you can email in your bills too. So I do have a bit of a, actually, Meg, can you go to the next slide for me? Thank you. I wasn't sure where we're up to with that, but I do have a bit of a demo that I've stolen from another presentation that I'm going to use for us later. But I just wanted to go through like who should use HubDoc. So if you are using more than 10 bills a week, I really think you should be using HubDoc. Just that volume of bills is going to save you time at that point. So you can forward your email documents in, you can upload or drag and drop your bills into HubDoc to get that automation happening. Like I said, with the HubDoc app, you can upload your receipts on the go. So this could be good, like I said, for the practice if they've got like an iPad or something at the desk or on a mobile phone, they can upload those into HubDoc. And like I said, the upload a virtual filing cabinet. So if you're providing regular bank statements and documents, it's a really good spot to use, as I said, a filing cabinet. Whether those documents get pushed into Xero from there is, I guess, a separate thing. But for us, we have lots of clients who upload their documents into HubDoc. So it's pretty much, they set, send and forget. So then we get them on the other side. So it's something that we don't have to go back to them, 10, 12 months later and say, have you got this document? If it's already in HubDoc, it's a great place for us as accountants to grab that information from. Just the next one for me, please. Okay, so what will HubDoc do for you? So like I've discussed, so it's going to automate your data entry. So once in HubDoc, the key information from your receipts and your bills is extracted. So that is done automatically. So the invoice number, the due date, supply name, invoice number, it will bring all that in. It's also going to split out your GST and extract that information. So sort of one step further than just straight into Xero. It does multiple line extractions for you. So if you have a particular bill, a lot of medical supply bills, some of them have GST on amounts, some of them don't, it will actually extract that and read that information. So it will present you with two lines, a GST-free line and a GST line on your bills. Then it's a one-click publish to Xero. So we're just publishing that once it's all been read and ready for you to do so. And then if it's a receipt, probably more than a bill, it's just then a one-click to reconcile it on the bank feed. So what you'll get to is a point that you will upload a document into Xero. It will publish it and have it waiting for you. So there's nothing you've actually done to that bill. You haven't touched it. You've uploaded it to HubDoc. It's read, processed, published, ready for you to reconcile. So you haven't touched it at all. So that's the point we want to get to. So with that auto publish feature in HubDoc, once you set up your supplier rules, so you can say like a telephone expense will always go to, sorry, a telephone bill will always go to telephone expenses, electricity, all those things that can happen automatically. You can set up those rules and you can say that you want to auto publish that. So it will automatically go into zero for you as a bill. You haven't touched a thing, like I said. So that's the auto publish feature that you won't have if you're just emailing your bills into straight to zero. HubDoc will take that one step further for you. And like I've said before, you've got your virtual filing cabinet there, so you can store your documents by sorts of by supply or bank to easily locate your past invoices and bank statements if you wish. And lastly, assisting with the ATO requirements for record keeping. I find this is a good thing to bring up. So if you're required to provide documents and evidence to the ATO ever in the future, so HubDoc can assist by having these source documents easily available. So it has that virtual filing cabinet, you can locate your records. It'll also keep a source document in Xero attached to the bill as well. So you have that document in two places. So I find it's a really good place to keep all your records as well. Nice and sorted for you, easily to access. Lovely. I think my next one is a bit of a demo. So like I said, I've stolen this from another presentation that I've done in the past. So it might have a few words saying with other things too that we're going to discuss, but just so you can see how HubDoc looks and how easy it is. So hopefully that sort of works now. Meg, if you want to press start for me.
Okay, so let's have a look at HubDoc. This is the HubDoc screen. This is your homepage. This is a demo organization again. What you'll see is it's a very simple layout. On the first column here, you can see all your documents you've uploaded in the past. So this is your virtual filing cabinet like we spoke about. I'm just going to jump into the uploads one. So these are all the documents we've actually uploaded. In here, you can see they're all being separated by the supplier. So these are all the documents I've uploaded in the past in this demo organization. Just going to jump onto that one demo one. So if I click onto there, let's click on all, it's going to show me all the documents that I've had from them in the past. This one here looks familiar. This is the one we used previously in the other example and demo we did. So you can see the transaction is there, what you've uploaded in the past, all in one place. So it's a nice, really great place to have all your documents in the one-stop shop. So you can see everything there. The tabs across the top here, so when you're uploading your documents, they all appear differently. So all obviously, then you have your processing. So once they're actually being read by HubDoc, they'll appear here. Then I'll move over to the review tab where you will need to actually review the document, select all your supplier settings and the settings for that particular document. And failed, if any fail for any reason, it'll have a notification on why it's failed. You just need to fix those up. And the archive tab, so the ones that you've actually pushed in the past and they've actually been read and now they're sitting in Xero. So to upload a few documents is very easily. So just very simply clicking on upload document. There's a couple of ways, three really, that you can use to get your documents into HubDoc. You can drag and drop your documents in, which we'll do in a second. So then you can also browse as well on your computer and find them if you've got them saved. You can submit them by email. So you have a unique email address that can be set up, very similar to what the PDF to bill example that we did earlier. This can be tailored to be a unique email address, whatever you like. I generally recommend something like your name of your company, if it's available at app.hubdoc.com. So that could be changed to make it nice and easy for you to say that as a contact or give it to other suppliers and they can send their bills straight into HubDoc. That would even be a better time saver. You've also got the app. The app is fantastic for receipts. So if you have somebody who's taking lots of receipts, you can take a photo of that receipt and that receipt will just appear in HubDoc for you to code in one place. So nice and easy for them. I'm just going to pull in a couple of documents so as if they were being sent in. So I'm just going to bring in an Energy Australia bill, a water bill, and a receipt so you can see the different examples of what you can do. So those ones have now been uploaded straight away. So let's go to the processing tab. So you can see how all those documents have actually left the processing. They've already been processed. That's how quick it was. And now they're sitting in the review tab. So here is how we actually edit those documents. One really great feature about HubDoc is you can actually see potential duplicates. This bill has actually been uploaded before because it's my demo, but it's a great example to show you how you can see if that has been uploaded before, and you can determine if yes, you do need to upload it again, or however, no, I don't want to upload that twice. I don't want to pay that one twice. So it's a really good stop point there. You can go back to your Xero file and just see, yep, definitely have a duplicate of that there. I don't want to pay that one again. What you'll see, very similar to the PDF to bill, you can see all that transaction information has been entered in for us. So we've got the supplier entered, the date, the due date, and the amount. Very simply, we can just select that as being an invoice. It gives us more options here. So obviously an invoice number has come up for that one. Electricity bill, we probably don't tend to put an invoice number in there, but you can if you wish, like a date range even. And what I do want to show you here is the configuration to Xero. So this is what we need to actually configure from the Xero settings. So all these settings have come over from your Xero file. So all your supplier information, all your chart of account codes, all that information is the same as what you would see in that Xero file. So it's a very simple case of just selecting that information. So we're going to select as a purchase in this case. If you have a receipt and attached to, say, potentially a credit card, you can make this a spend money transaction. So it won't create a bill in Xero. It'll actually have that spend money waiting for you to match it against. So that's pretty cool too. Another step saved. So I'm going to stick with purchase though. In the status, you can actually select draft, awaiting approval, awaiting payment. So that's the flow that you have in Xero. I'm going to stay with awaiting payment, but you may be using draft or awaiting approval methods depending on what your approval workflow is. The contacts here, so that's the contact from Xero. It's already picked up Energy Australia. I'm happy with that selection. The account code, electricity, again, very happy with that. What you do have the ability for is saving this configuration. So I can save this configuration so every time an electricity bill comes in from Energy Australia, it's going to save and remember these details. What is awesome is the auto sync feature. So if you have a bill, this is a great example of one that you have would be coded exactly the same way every time. A phone bill may be another one, but if you're having them coded exactly the same, let's click auto sync. So auto sync will actually read that bill, make these changes on the bill for you, code it that way, and then push it to Xero. You don't have to do a single click. As soon as you upload that bill into HubDoc, it gets read, coded, pushed to Xero. You didn't have to do a single thing. It's all remembered it, it's all coded it, it's all pushed it into Xero. How amazing is that? So in this case, I'm just going to press publish. Bang, that bill is now going to be sitting in our Xero file. I'm just going to go down to the Hunter Water one. So exactly the same way, you can see that all those details are pushed in. Then we could definitely do the same idea of coding that one. Into the Bunnings one. So this is a receipt. So you can see how quickly that bill got read. So that receipt got read. So it's already selected all that information for us. It's a simple case of saying, yep, that one's a receipt. You can do an invoice reference if you wish. The date has been read. The due date, obviously, receipt doesn't need one, and the total amount has already been read. That is amazing. Then we just go to the Xero configuration and we can do that from here. So we can say that's a spend money and that contact was Bunnings, and we can choose the bank account. So this is where I would select the credit card in this case if that's how it was paid. And then again, I'm just going to select repairs and maintenance for this particular example and go publish. That's it. That's all I had to do. All that information was read. And again, like I said, if it's something that you're coding the same way every time, just select that as the saved configuration. And better yet, if you're happy it's going to be coded the same way every time, auto sync it. It's now in Xero. Let's jump over to the Xero file. I'm just going to refresh this screen. Okay, coming down to the bills here. So bills we need to pay. Let's have a look at those bills now that should be sitting in awaiting payment. So we should now see that Energy Australia bill. So that Energy Australia bill is sitting in there for us ready. So that's been coded, pushed, sitting in there. The Hunter Water one, I didn't publish it. I'd already published it previously. That's now sitting there waiting for us as well. So we didn't have to do anything. Once that's auto synced, they're sitting in there for us. Going back to the dashboard, I want to go down to my credit card. If I have a look at the account transactions, so they're the transactions that are waiting to code, that Bunnings one that we push through is now sitting there waiting for that amount to come on our bank statement, and it would simply match. How awesome is this? So we've now got efficiency on top of all that, accuracy, we're all over that now, and how much time have we saved? This add-on, it will change the way you do your bills and do your receipts. All right, let's go back to the slides to wrap up.
Thanks, Meg. I think that's everything that I think was on my list. The little demo that I have just so you can see the flow, I think is really worthwhile just to see it in action and how much time that's going to save. But yeah, I think that was it for me. That's all on my list. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sarah. And can I say, Sarah works incredibly closely with my clients every day, and she provides an outstanding service to them. So thank you very much, Sarah. All right, we'll hand over to Elizabeth now, who will take you through mastering online presence for patient growth.
Hi, everyone. Just a little bit of background about myself. I have over 13 years of experience working in the marketing and advertising industry, especially working with organizations in the health, government, disability, and finance space, helping them with their marketing strategies and campaigns. Today, I decided to start with the basics because we have never done a marketing webinar. So maybe some of the things that I'm going to talk to you today are some of you are already doing them, but even we, Kutcher and Neil, are working on some of the things that I'm going to be talking to you about in the background as we speak. So there is no doubt that online search and people are totally looking what they need online, and that also goes to what kind of health or appointments or where they're going to go. So if you're not online, chances are that you're not going to be capturing the major pool of patients that you could. So this is important in what Meg was talking to you about increasing patients, but also returning patients, because sometimes you go once to a practice and you might have forgotten their name, but you know the address, so you do a quick Google search, and that's the importance of having a very strong online presence. So at the moment, 81% of Australians use the internet to find health information. 77 of patients use online reviews as the first step in finding a new doctor. And this is especially important if the doctor does something like surgery. Everyone does a lot of research when they are going to go through on the anesthesia or anything like that. So they take their time, they read a lot of reviews. So definitely practices are under a lot of scrutiny in that area. And 41 of patients say that content posted by doctors on social media impacts their choice of provider, facility, and medical centers. So what is happening at the moment with marketing is before brands used to be everything, now people are everything. So people want to connect with other people. They want to connect with doctors. They want to connect with the nurses, with the person that say hello at the reception. So yes, you need to be online, but you also need to show who is your team and who they will be talking to. Next. Thank you. So customer behavior is also changing. Before in marketing, we used to have this funnel that we would create marketing activities around, okay, let's focus on acquiring. And slowly we are going to progress this person until we retain them and they refer back to us. And it was pretty simple. Now, with social media, it's 24/7. Like it's an infinite loop. So you might win them once. It doesn't mean that they will come back again. So you have to constantly be at the forefront, be top of mind, be okay. Remember me, I'm here, and that loop can come and go. And it's yeah. Once you earn a patient, doesn't mean that they will stay with you forever. Unfortunately. Second. So first, let's start with your website, and this is really simple. Some of the things that even though to me it's very obvious, many practices don't do, is have a clear call to action at the very top of their navigation that is book now or contact us button. And I can guarantee you that if you have a book now and you have an automated booking system, you're going to make that person's life much easier, and there's a higher chance that they will book an appointment with you than if they need to call on the and ring during working hours. Another thing that happens, some of the practices have been operating for a very, very long time, and some of your websites are not optimized for mobile. And unfortunately, it does mean a bad, poor user experience because 50% at least of um, website visitations are through your mobile phone and an iPad or any other device that is not a desktop, essentially. And also, if you are already thinking about, okay, I have the patient there, they want to book an appointment or they want to inquire, just provide multiple opportunities throughout your website so they can click that button. So the way that we think about websites in marketing is what is the action we want them to take. And we take that action and make it the most important element of your whole website. And in this case, what we want is get them to book. And then that's what we need to prioritize across the whole website. Next. Some of the things, and again, that are not usually done by some of the practices is adding a frequently asked questions section. I imagine you get a lot of phone calls with the same questions over and over. If you can write them down and make a list of those questions, it will be really useful because normally people do tend to search first, and search is now very much inquiries. So, how do I get to my practice? How do I book an appointment? How, um, if I need medication or a script when it's Christmas, what do I do in that case? All of those questions that they might have, they give you a lot of opportunity to create content, and that way you can rank higher. And therefore, if you had rank higher on Google search, if they're looking for a practice near me, which is very common search, you could be ranked at the top just by consistently having frequently asked questions. Um, Another tip that I'm going to give to you, and this is something that Coach Anil is currently working on, is having a form at the end of each page. And this allows patients to, okay, maybe I'm not ready to book. Then what do I do now? Some people are not in that stage yet. If you can put a form with an automated system that so someone gets this notification, maybe reception, they get all of the details, then they can be called back. Um, and that way then shows that you're grabbing their interest and you're constantly serving them and you are here for them. This hasn't shown in previous practices clients that I had, that the inquiries had increased by 15%. So just a little form at the end of every page at the bottom. How can we help you? Didn't find what you need? Drop us a line. And that could be quite useful. Thank you. As I said earlier, reviews are very important when it comes to medical practices. Therefore, trying to encourage people to leave Google reviews or showcasing the great Google reviews that you might have already could be an excellent strategy that is basically free. And as you can see, in the 97% of people, we either go to the closest practice or the one with the highest rating. So you can embed Google reviews on your website. So there is a process for free. And if you have a WordPress website, which a lot of them are, there is even a widget for you to kind of integrate it and it sort of showcases you the information of your Google review kind of live. You could also, if you don't have that ability, just add a button, hyperlink the button to your Google listing, and sort of say, click here to leave a review. You could also use it as if you send a text message after the appointment or an email. Thank you for visiting us. Tell us how your experience was and encourage those reviews as well. Next. All right. Social media. Social media can be very simple. I think when practices and doctors who are really, really busy think about social media, it can be time consuming. I put two examples here. So I used to Hunter Pain Specialist. They used to be one of my clients, and I put two examples to give you an idea of what I'm about to showcase. So on the left side, we have a professionally produced in the studio with the right lighting. It took us way longer to produce. We did a lot of research and put a really strong blog article together um, around pain conditions, and it got 23 likes. They had a special day diet red on the right. It was on on a mobile phone. They decided to take a photo, and it got way more engagement than something that it took us way longer to produce. And what I'm trying to say with this is people want authenticity more than anything. They want to know your team. They want to know who the nurses are. Um, they are interested that you have all the accolades and all the knowledge, but social media is a more engaging, sort of more natural and relaxed space where you could also utilize those tools. Take photos of the team if you have morning breakfast, if you are doing fundraising, if you are celebrating someone's anniversary. All of those are really good ideas to keep your social media kind of active. Um, and people actually engage more with those type of content. If you can go to the next, Meg. Um, so this is some of some of the tips to keep it simple. So first, choose at least two platforms. It could be either LinkedIn and Facebook or Instagram, but choose two because you don't know where people are going to actually look for you. And set realistic goals. Even one post a week is better than no posting at all. Use easy content formats, share photos as you saw that with a phone, a quick snippet. Use infographics from other. PHN is a good example. They produce a lot of content that you could sort of reshare. Short video content, simple text updates. We will be closed for Christmas, and so forth. And also, if you're already creating blog posts, blog articles, frequently asked questions, or patient education materials that you may already have, just repurpose that content and share it on social media. I have an example here where Avery Plastic Surgery, again, they were also one of my clients. They are just explaining what a muscle reparation is. So it's quite educational. They obviously have a brand, they have a color, they put a backdrop, they put their font, they put the little icon, and they sort of educate the person around what muscle separation is, just to give you an example. Next one. So I know that sometimes we get a bit overwhelmed into like what should we post. Um, so we could put health tips and frequently asked questions as an example. Some behind the scenes showing the friendly faces of your team to build trust. Patient reminders such as like will be books are now open as the example is showing over there, or will be closed for Christmas, or um, it is the flu season. Remember to book in your vaccine. Any kind of notices and reminders for your patients will be another pocket for content. Any community involvement that you may have, and success stories, which are the hardest one to get, and testimonials, given that you need your client's approval and permission to do this. But these are actually very, very good for businesses because it builds a lot of trust an authority in the space, and people like to see other people like themselves. So to take that next step to contact you. Um, I know that we have multiple different practices. So it's hard to put an example, um, but in the case of plastic surgery, it's very obvious. Some people will want to see, okay, let me see what they can do, what results people might get with chronic pain as well. Um, Chronic pain is very complicated, and they might need different treatments. They might need, and they want to hear from the people what worked for them, and maybe give that a try. Next. So I put an overview to get the basics right. So for the website, think of mobile first design. Now WordPress has a lot of templates that allow you to quickly have it already accessible and customized for mobile. Do basic SEO. SEO means search engine optimization. That means that when I do a search, your practice will appear at least top three, and you get that by having a Google listing, by posting blog articles, doing some keyword research, um, and putting information around the doctors, who their bios, what they specialize in, what they like to do. I've seen a lot of practices that make it, she's a mom and she likes to do this when she's not work, and that makes it a bit more human. And also in-depth information about services. So showcase your expertise and educate your patients as well. Um, don't forget to put a prominent contact information and call to action at the top, and that should be in all of your pages in the navigation, preferably always with a bright color so people can immediately see the action you want them to take. Either contact us if you don't have an automated booking system, or book now if you do have an automated booking system. And security, something very important that sometimes we forget. This you will work more with your developer and your IT people, but this is in case you patients do need to enter their contact details and private information. It just guarantees that it's safe for the patient. On the social media side, just choose two social platforms that you feel comfortable with, that you kind of like, that you think the patients are using them. A lot of social media is incredibly exploring and seeing what works. We normally start with a hypothesis and then sort of create a plan based on the hypothesis to test it. But the most famous social media platforms are still Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Threads and X. So you can decide one of those or two of those and just start posting once a week. Easy to remember handles, so try not to make the names too complicated. Just put the name of your practice. Create a content scheduling, even schedule if you can, even if it's just once a month, or designate someone who has some sort of interest on social media that who can help you. And also ask patients if they want to be featured or mentioned. If there is a success story, if there is something that you are really proud of achieving with a patient, just say, hey, I think it would be great to let other people know about your journey, and it might help others um, to do the same and improve. Because that's, at the end of the day, we want to provide value to others and showcase what good we can do for them. And also provide regular updates, closing times, key special days, Happy Mother's Day, Happy Father's Day, etc. Lastly, I'm going to close with some tools. So now more than ever, it's easier for anyone to just do social media. So we have um, artificial intelligence tools such as ChatGPT and Gemini, who can give you content idea generation. They can even write all of the words for you, and then you can tweak them and put it in your own sort of brand tone of voice if you want to. You could also feed these platforms with different examples that you may have of what other practices are doing that you like, and say, I want to do something similar around this. and it will put together a robust content schedule for you, with ideas and even the captions for the post. On the visual content, we cannot forget to mention Canva. Of course, everyone knows about Canva. Very user friendly, very easy to use. They have templates. You can just pick the template, put your brand's colors, put some photos from your team, and you're good to go. CapCut is for video. So CapCut is a quick app that you can download on your phone, and you can record yourself and record another video and put them together very easily. And you can do transitions and everything just from your phone. You don't have to be a video editor. And it's just giving people the tools and independence they need to be able to take social media, um, and do what they need to do to ensure that they are top of mind and they are putting themselves out there. And you will need a scheduled platform. So what we always do for everyone's sakes is sort of like plan 3 months of content and create all of the graphics or videos, all of the copy, and go to one of the platforms. We use HubSpot internally, but it's quite expensive. For some practices, might not be doable. Hootsuite and Sendible are two more affordable options, that you can utilize and just schedule your content, and it will just go, and you don't have to be constantly thinking about, oh, what content should I put? And that's it. Those are some of the quick little tips I wanted to give to you to ensure that your practice is putting the best foot forward. Keep it simple. Essentially, if you have a website, ensure that your main call to action is at the very top. And if you don't have social media, start. Start with the social media, use the tools, and start posting at least once a week. That's it.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you so much, Lisbeth. That was incredibly insightful, and you really challenge my accounting brain sometimes with your beautiful ideas when it comes to marketing. So thank you. All right. So that brings us to the end of our session today, and thank you very much for joining us. I hope whether it was looking at ways to grow your practice and the 4 elements that you could use, or looking at a SWOT analysis as a starting point to go, all right, well, what can we do to encourage that growth? Or looking at Sarah's tips in terms of automation and Xero and how you can make your life easier there. Or whether it's taking little bits and pieces out of Lisbeth's presentation in terms of, all right, well, if we're focused on growth, how can we attract those patients through online advertising? So thank you again. And as you will see there, I put up the QR code. So please feel free to scan that QR code and reach out if you would like to get in touch for a free consultation. So thank you again.
Thank you, everyone. That was fabulous, ladies. It was so much information, and I hope everyone took some practical tips away from it. Now we'll open up questions. We do have a few minutes left if anyone wants to ask any. We don't have any that have come through yet, so please find the question box, and if not, we will take an early mark. Anything else you want to add for today, Megan?
No, that's all. So more than happy for anyone to reach out via that QR code if they choose to down the track.
Perfect. Well, nothing has come through, so we will wrap up for today. But thank you, everyone, and a reminder that the evaluation will come to you directly at the end of the session. Thank you, and we'll see you for the next session.
Thanks again, Sydney.